I read Gary Vaynerchuk's newest book, Day Trading Attention, and I think there are 6 key takeaways that I will apply as a new creator, so I'll share those with you today. The key thesis of the book hinges on the idea that there's a movement towards the interest graph from the social graph. It used to be that platforms rewarded views to creators based on how many people followed them, and that whenever a creator created something, that thing would be shown to their subscribers. And this actually formed the foundation for Gary's earlier book, Jab, 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 Right Hook, because it did not make sense on the social graph to ask for a sale every time. It made sense to provide free value, and then ask for something in return. The interest graph is the platform's algorithms moving towards an era where they will recommend content that they think will appeal to the audience, whether or not they are subscribed to someone. The interest graph means that the content that you create, is the sole variable for marketing success online. And so this means a few things for creators. Number one, it means that this is an opportunity for new creators, because new creators can post something on a platform and have it go viral if the quality is there. New creators can also observe the feedback that that post will generate and then use that feedback to inform future content. In other words, we're doing marketing so we can do better marketing. This also means that creators don't really need to worry about sticking to one niche anymore, because if a platform is able to serve the content that you create to a subset of audience that it has information about, then you can actually have a YouTube channel with multiple niches and it will still work. Gary's channel is a very clear example of this. He's got posts about business, about marketing, about mindset, about garage sales, about New York Jets. And perhaps the biggest implication is that if the creative is truly the variable of success, then the future of business will be creator-led brands. And we're seeing a bit of that today already with Mr. Beast's Feastables or Logan Paul's Prime. And so the interest graph will only accelerate that. The second thing that I learned is the PAC, SOC, and PCS cycle. PAC is PAC, stands for Platforms and Culture. STOC is SOC, stands for Strategic Organic Content. And PCS is Post Creative Strategist. And so I've heard Gary talk a little bit about PAC in one of his previous videos, but in the book he goes deep into the details of what PAC actually means. It means understanding the culture and nuances and psychographics of your specific audience. I'll go more into that later. Understanding a platform means understanding what you can or cannot do on specific platforms. And with an understanding of those things, then you create strategic, organic content that is contextualized to the platforms. For example, you're thinking about the best thumbnails, you're thinking about the best headlines, you're thinking about the aspect ratio of the videos, the length of the video, how often to post text. All of those things is you being strategic instead of marketing to the masses. You're thinking about your specific cohort, Gary calls it, of people that you want to target, and you're creating content for them. And then after posting the content, you're looking at analytics, you're looking at the comments, and you're using that information to inform your understanding of your target audience and of the culture of the platform to update your strategy. And so it's a cycle. Creating content is an iterative process. And the reason why so many gurus pitch the idea of volume is because it increases the number of iterations that we go through in a given amount of time, thereby increasing the quality of our output in that process. So with that understanding, let's move on to the third thing that I learned, and that is the idea of cohorts. And so cohorts is Gary's way of describing what customer avatars are. But his emphasis is to go beyond basic understandings of demographics and basic understanding of psychographics. And so instead of identifying 25 to 35-year-old males that want to make money online as a cohort, we're looking at now 25 to 35-year-old Asian males working abroad that are introverted, who are making at least $60,000 a year, that are in a relationship and want to create a lasting business and income for their family. Their interests are watching shows, reading books, eating food. That is good, right? I'm kind of just describing myself now, but that's the level of specificity that we can get to if we're trying to define a specific cohort. And if we're able to define a cohort specifically, then that can tailor our marketing message. It can define the kinds of content that we include, the jokes, the memes. And so all of this is to help us be more specific with our content. And Gary says, in the process of being specific, we have to understand the idea of media addressability. So our conception of what a cohort is might be different from what YouTube thinks our content should do or who it should reach. And so we might have our definition of a cohort, but YouTube or Facebook or Instagram might have a different definition. And so in your comments, you might find out that you've reached a totally different demographic, and that's okay. Add that to your cohort. And so the idea is that for one single business, one single product, you can have multiple different cohorts that are interested in the content that you create, and that's okay. And so this cohort is not a set and forget about it thing. It's something that you use post-creative strategy to understand and update. Again, this is also an iterative process in understanding that cohorts shrink or expand or change over time. And I think you have a more dynamic understanding of who your target audience actually is. The fourth thing that I learned is pack. So I talked a little bit about platforms and culture, but I never really understood what it meant whenever Gary talked about it in his videos. But now I do. Culture is anything relevant to the audience that you are trying to target. And so if, for example, I'm trying to target 25 to 35-year-old Asian males who are introverted, who has a decent job and is trying to make money and has an interest in anime and dramas in their spare time, then I can use scenes from my favorite animes in the past, because that's also probably going to be their favorite animes in the past, as a part of my content to make a point. And so that's me taking advantage of culture. Understanding culture is understanding anything that is relevant to the audience, so you can reference those understandings in content. It can be facts, it can be statistics, it can be trends, it can be beliefs, it can be defining events, right? So for example, like as an Asian immigrant, there was always the stereotype that I'm supposed to be good at math, right? I can talk about that in a video. And if you are also an Asian immigrant, you might resonate with that. And that might build trust. And so examples are endless, which is why you want to define your cohort so specifically that you're able to identify the aspects of culture that you can now reference in your content. And so that's culture. Platforms is understanding what you can or cannot do on each platform. For example, do you know that you can timestamp YouTube comments? Do you know you can pin YouTube comments? What about Instagram? Do you know that you actually can't do those things on Instagram? Do you know which platforms you can include photos in replies? Do you know which platforms you can do a duet in when creating a short form content? Understanding that will help you more fully utilize the features of the platform that you are posting content on. Because the whole point of platforms is to make us stay on the platforms. That's how the platforms make money. And so if I'm able to timestamp in the comments and then someone clicks on that timestamp, then I've successfully helped that person stay on the platform. The fifth thing that I learned is going to be about SOC, okay? So let's go into more details on strategic organic content. And so Gary goes into detail on how to be strategic, and I want to share the ones that resonate with me as a new creator. To me, what I got from that section is that being strategic is about being authentic. It's about posting more. It's about sharing more of your life in different aspects. And so if you are different on camera versus being with a friend versus being with family, it's okay to show those other sides of you while keeping your private life private. Being strategic is about whether or not you're hooking the person in the first 3 seconds. Are you making them curious? Is the font big enough? Are there things happening in the first 3 seconds that will keep the person watching or engaged? Are you sharing stories? Are you showing emotion? So all of those things are a part of being strategic. And the opposite of strategy is what you see in those mass market commercials that show no understanding of a specific cohort, that show no personality of what the brand actually represents. And so there's a quote I want to share with you from the book if you're still thinking about how you can be strategic with your content. And so Gary says people are always worried about losing respect with their audience or posting something that no one cares about. The reality is putting out content is never a bad thing. The more topics you touch on, the more opportunities you have to relate to people. And Gary gives the example about how him creating a post on how he loves blueberries turned out to be one of his most viral posts. And when he was posting it, nobody had any idea how that post was relevant to anything. But in retrospect, he's talking about it now in his book. And it proves a point. And the point it proves is that good content is better than bad content, but bad content is better than no content. And in order to post good content, you have to post a lot of bad content first. And so the sixth thing that I want to share with you that I took away from his book is specific tips for creating on YouTube, because I'm a new small creator on YouTube. And so his specific tips for posting on YouTube are lean into long form because of YouTube TV. So things like video podcasts, things like interviews, 1 hour, 2 hour long videos. We need to increase production value of our YouTube videos for the same reason, because YouTube is now going to TV and YouTube is now becoming more and more competitive. And so there is value in production value. If posting on social media is a science and an art, then YouTube would be more of a science. So he wants us to understand our analytics, understand our retentions. Where do people drop off? Should we change our title? Should we change our description? Is our content good for search? And so addressing all of those questions will improve our performance as a small creator on YouTube. Now, in order to make those decisions on what we should do, we kind of have to have data and analytics to look at. And so in order to have analytics to look at, we have to post and post and post and post. And so in more than one instance in the book, Gary says, yeah, after you post 25 to 40 pieces of content, you can look and see which ones got more views, and then think about why one piece of content specifically got more views than other pieces of content. And so for most new creators, for me specifically, I just need to post more. Right now I'm posting 1 piece of content a week, and Gary literally called me out in the book because there's literally a section in the book where he's like, you're only posting 1 piece of content a week? You gotta be kidding me. And you're trying to change the world? And he's right. For most new creators, we kind of just want to dabble. We want to test the waters. We're not fully committed. And Gary says, this is the final quote that I want to leave you with. If you're at a place where you're posting once or twice a week, you could start by getting up to 4 times a day. So you give yourself more opportunities to gather data on what is working and what is not. And so the price of entry to the game of building brand is volume. And that's where I'm going to leave you.